Hello, everybody, and welcome to a conversation with artist Joanna Pinsky. She's exhibiting in the 7th annual Evanston Made group show. Hello, Joanna.
Hi, Lisa.
Thank you so much for joining us and inviting us into your beautiful studio.
Thank you.
Oh, there's so much work behind you. Okay, tell us first what you're exhibiting in the show.
I am exhibiting a painting of Abraham Lincoln, and it is a shape piece. It's two-dimensional on gator board with layered paint. And I have been doing Abraham Lincoln paintings for almost 2 years now. I became interested in heroes. I had done a lot of paintings of a Cuban hero named Jose Marti after leading a number of trips to Cuba. And I exhibited all my Cuba paintings, or at least many of my Cuba paintings, at the Cone Line Museum. It was a very large show. And when it ended, I thought, what am I going to do next? I need to come back home. And who is the American hero? And it's Abraham Lincoln. And that was great for me in two ways. One, living here in Illinois, he's also an Illinois hero. And number two, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area and loved to go to the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, the famous memorial. And this particular painting comes from that particular sculpture.
And do you cut out that surface before you paint it, or do you paint on a square board and then you cut it out?
I cut it out before, because sometimes there are little changes that happen along the way, and then I have to work with them. Whereas if I made a little nick in it, doing it after, that would be difficult. It's on double gator board, very thin pieces. And by doubling it, I have 4 hard surfaces. So it's very strong and it's very light. And I've been making these shaped pieces you can see behind me.
I love that.
Because they create, I can do an installation of them.
Yeah, and if they're really light, they're easy to install then.
Very easy. And well, not all that easy, because the arrangement is important, but they're installed with Velcro. And that means that there are no nails on the wall that you can see.
Nice. Okay, so then talk to us a little bit about what you're working on now, because behind you, half is shape paintings and then the other half looks like traditional canvas.
Okay, what I'm actually working on now, I'm going to just, you can see in the distance some paper pieces. And I'm working on, I like to work on paper and sort of shift between paper and the shape pieces, because I'm working in a more traditional method. But at Space 900 at Gallery in Evanston, we are going to have a show on high anxiety. It was actually planned for June, but because of the COVID, it's been delayed. So I'm actually, you can't see it, but I'm actually working on a Anthony Fauci piece. I'm going to do a couple of Anthony Fauci's, because he certainly had quite a bit of high anxiety, not only with COVID, but having to deal with Trump. So I'm excited about that. Some other pieces will go in too.
And the piece behind you on the canvas is so beautiful against your shirt and your hair. It's just standing out. It's absolutely wonderful. Talk to us a little bit about what is different about your practice now that you're having shelter in. Are you in the studio all the time? Or are you never painting because you're sad?
I'm in the studio more, and for me, the big treat is I come in the afternoon. Normally in my life, I'm at Art Encounter, and once you're in that office, it's really, really hard to exit. So I had tried to set up a system of painting between about 5 and 8 p.m. or 4:30. Doesn't always work, and I usually paint at night, more like between 8 and midnight. So with the COVID, I'm doing my art encounter work in my home office. And then I get to the studio usually at about 2:30, and I'll stay till 6:30 or 7:30. So
Wow.
there's more time.
Painting every single day you're in the studio.
No, weekends I usually take off,
Okay.
do
Nice.
bike rides. And I find for myself, I don't know about other artists, sometimes I'll work 6 days, but I need breaks. And the mind needs to kind of settle, and it gets to be too much otherwise.
And are you connecting with people a lot online? Are you on Zoom constantly, or are you taking a break from the technology?
I'm on Zoom more. It's been a real learning experience because as artistic director of Art Encounter, I've been leading some Zoom programs that are visits to artist studios, private collections, a little history. We're going to be doing a program this summer on Black artists, contemporary Black artists who have really made an impact in the art world. So I'm really excited about that. And it's a great diversion. It's been a real learning experience. It takes more work. It takes more people. But I enjoy it. And then meeting with the Space 900 people once a month. And I can only take so much Zooming. I do miss the connection.
It is a lot, but I feel like there's a lot getting done, and I'm excited to hear that Art Encounters programming is really offering virtual. That's wonderful.
And we've done it in the schools too. So I'm really, really pleased about it.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about your journey, about how you became an artist, where it started. I mean, I know that's a whole separate 2-hour podcast, but just in case, a little glimpse.
Okay, well, I always drew as a kid. I'd get cold in the winter and sit under my father's desk, which was right near a radiator, and draw. Aww. And then when I was in school, my teachers always said, oh, you're going to be an artist when you grow up. I wanted to be a ballet dancer, however, but didn't quite have it. So, and I always made the art. When I was in high school, my art teacher loved what I did. I was doing work that in those days was a little bit unusual for what other students were doing. So she put the paintings up all over the school. Nice. And then I went to Cornell University, and I knew I was going to do art all my life. And I wanted a broader education. And they, in their art school, at that time, there were requirements for history and science and English. And of course, most of the art students delayed the science till junior year, but it was great. I think what really also made a big difference in the way I see the world, and what also brought me to Art Encounter, was a semester I had in New York City during college. And we went around with the museum director to visit artist studios like Jim Dine, and some really exciting artist studios and galleries and museum shows. And what was important was that I learned that the most exciting thing was to discover new things and to look at the world in new ways, which the art I was viewing did. And that included Frank Stella. So that was the first time I saw shape paintings. And I think as artists, most of us try to find something new, and that's why we keep going.
And is that sort of what Art Encounter then also enabled you to do as an artist, as you were constantly exposing yourself to new mediums and people, and that informed your work?
It informs my work. The thing with Art Encounter is that you see everything is out there, and that gives you permission to do anything. You know, when you get out of school, and of course I didn't do Art Encounter when I first got out of school, when you get out of school, you see people working on what their teachers, their professors encourage, what's hot in the art world at that time. And, you know, then they either evolve and move into new things, or they get kind of locked in to a certain way of working. But I like the ideas. and I like the dialogue, and I came to the conclusion early that there are many ways to see, which is now our tagline at
Your
Art.
tagline, oh, I love that so much.
The other thing that is really, really good about taking people to look at art is you see that people do see differently. So I see by color. That's my dominant sense. And I like pretty vivid colors. And I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with color. Well, if they don't relate to my paintings because of color, instead of feeling hurt, I understand it's just not the way they see. So there's a real freedom in working with other people, both in just doing what you need to do and not feeling that you're really judged all the time, letting go of that.
And you managed to keep the continuum art practice your entire career, despite having a family, getting married, starting a nonprofit, all of that. You've always maintained a practice.
I have, because it's my sanity. But my late husband was a math professor at Northwestern, and he would never take real early classes. So he would get up with the kids and make their lunches and get them off, and I would work at night and sleep in the morning. So then Art Encounter got bigger. It started to grow as the kids went off. Then there was Art Encounter, and that's how I maintained the practice. But now that I'm not exactly stepping back from Art Encounter, I'm leading a lot of programs, but with my daughter as executive director, I'm finding more daytime hours, which I need at this point in my life.
That's so awesome. Okay, and then last question, who are your inspirations? Who do you look to inform your work?
Well, certainly colorists, and starting with Matisse, truly Renoir, you know, who later wasn't my favorite artist, but I just always responded to color. Bonnard, I grew up in Washington. The Phillips had wonderful paintings. And then later on, Frank Stella, obviously, because I got into shapes, and he's really a genius. Al Held, I can look at now and say, oh my God, why didn't I go in that direction? I mean, he's so phenomenal. And Elizabeth Murray did great, wonderful, shaped, interesting, odd pieces. So I love her work. And I love a lot of work that's really different from what I do too. That often happens, I think, you know, what you don't do.
Wonderful. That's so great. Joanna, I'm so grateful for your time today and to see your current work. It's so fun to be able to look at artists in studios because I miss you.
I miss you, Lisa. I can't tell you enough how much we all in Evanston appreciate you and what you're doing for the Evanston art community.
It's so fun. These conversations have been awesome. So thank you very much for participating.
My pleasure.